What's going on today, buddies? Hopefully everybody is well. So today is Monday's Lucha Libre news/rant show. So let's just dive right into things. I got a little bit of a couple matches to talk about, an event, and a little bit of news to touch on. So let's just dive right into things, shall we? So ML Fusion number 25. This happened this past weekend, and of course we've seen Pentagon Jr. taking on la.Park in a Mexican Massacre matchup. It's a little bit racist, but that's all right. The matchup was definitely off the bat was hardcore for sure. We've seen tables, chains, chairs, trash cans were all used. la.Park pretty much beat down Pentagon Jr. for the first little bit of the matchup, like I've pretty much never seen anybody do before. Pentagon ended up doing a rather huge over-the-top dive, which really turned things around for him during the matchup, at least for a little bit. The matchup turned into a really good back and forth matchup. Very bloody. Pentagon ripped off la.Park's mask, and la.Park returned the favor. The matchup was definitely hands down one of the best matchups that I've ever seen, or at least I've seen in a really long time. It was quite literally everything that you want in a matchup. It was hardcore, high flying, and definitely so much more. The end of the matchup, seeing la.Park kick Pentagon in the balls, as he usually does, and pull out the three count victory. This matchup was really amazing. It was really back and forth. It was very hardcore. It was really true Lucha Libre matchup, which is nice to see in a American organization such as the MLW, and it was really enjoyable. If you guys didn't see that, I definitely think that you should go back and go ahead and watch that matchup. Now, of course, the CMLL, I mentioned this, I believe, in the last video or the video before that, talked a little bit about their Grand Prix. Well, their Grand Prix ended up happening this weekend, and it was really an amazing event. This was definitely one of the best CMLL Grand Prix that I've ever seen. It was definitely way better than last year's and the years before, for sure. I would have liked to have seen Mercedes take it to the very end, but I think he was one of the last three involved in the matchup, so that's all right. All in all, this was really good. It was still truly amazing, definitely, nonetheless. It was definitely nice to see different styles from all over the world come together and go against each other. Now, the Briscoe brothers were actually the kind of the surprising thing for me during this event, because they did a lot better than I had actually figured they would. I didn't think the Briscoe brothers would do as good as they did, but they ended up doing really good. Now, the end of the matchup, seeing the last two, was Ultimo Guerrero versus Michael Elgin. I believe that's how you say his last name. I'm not too sure. I'm not really familiar with this guy. He's a Canadian wrestler, so I don't really know too much about him. He did recently sign, I believe, a couple weeks ago. He recently signed with the CMLL, so I'm sure I'll get to know him. But anyway, I'd seen those two last remaining. Like I said, it would have been better if it was Ultimo Guerrero versus Mercedes. I think that would have been a really awesome type matchup. I would have liked to have seen Guerrero win that matchup, but surprisingly, the matchup between these two was actually really good. It was pretty much a luchador versus a powerhouse wrestler. It was actually really good and very entertaining, very back and forth, and really high paced. This whole Grand Prix was actually very high paced, which was nice to actually see. Now, Michael ended up winning this matchup, and he is this year's Grand Prix champion, and which means we'll definitely see him in next year's Grand Prix, which I'm hoping next year's Grand Prix learns something from this year's Grand Prix and is just as good, because this Grand Prix was truly amazing. I think you can check out, go check out CMLL. I think they have the highlights on their YouTube channel, because they usually post everything on there anyway. So I would definitely go check that out for sure. Now, Moving on to a little bit of news, Rush is set to be the next luchador to join the MLW. MLW, who is currently running major promotions to promote the debut of Rush. Rush's debut is set to be November 8th of this year. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if his involvement in the MLW was partly because they wanted to do a Rush versus la.Park feud. We know that this feud was pretty much running rampant all over Lucha Libre, CMLL for sure. Other smaller Lucha Libre organizations have latched on to the giant feud between these two luchadors. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of the angle that they were going with. I know la.Park and his son of la.Park, are set to take on the MLW Tag Team Champions, which is Pentagon Jr. and his brother Phoenix. So who knows? I mean, if they might win that matchup. I don't know if Rush will be involved with the feud with la.Park, but if la.Park and his son lose that matchup, I definitely think that we will see Rush and la.Park feud for sure. Moving on to another really great matchup that happened this weekend was Flyer teaming up with Soberano Jr. to take on the Tiger and Silver Tiger. Now the matchup started off by seeing Flyer and the Tiger in a very, very good, really good back and forth, very technical matchup, which is something that you don't really see amazingly often in Lucha Libre. Is, you know, more of a technical type showdown, this is what it was. It was a really nice technical showdown at the start. I mean, at the start, it was, nice tags were made. It was a really good tag team matchup. I mean, the amount of respect that was shown between these four luchadors, which was really great to see, because it's something that you don't see very often. So when you do, it's actually really nice to see. I mean, the amount of respect between these people, which is what was on display, which was really nice to see. The matchup ended up turning into more of a tornado tag team matchup a little later on, but it was a really, really great matchup. It pretty much had everything. I mean, this matchup really turned into one of my top 5 favorite Lucha Libre tag matches that I've really ever seen, because it was just constant, non-stop, high-paced. It was just back and forth was amazing. It was really had everything you want in a really great Lucha Libre tag team matchup. Just the technicalities of this matchup was really, really good. The end of the matchup seen Flyer pull out the much-deserved victory. So him and Soberano Jr. ended up winning that matchup, which was a really, really amazing matchup for sure. Another not so good action. Gozar, Lucha Libre had some okay matches during the past weekend. They had a really weird fatal 4-way that I've never really seen done that way before, but I mean, it was still pretty good. I think you could definitely check that out. It's seen Tiffany versus Sexy Deluxe. Now the two are definitely not any stranger to each other. Sexy Deluxe is Sexy Star from Underground. She's definitely no longer a part of Lucha Underground, but I think she's making her comeback if they do a 5th season. But the matchup started with pretty much a beatdown on the side of Tiffany's. I mean, she pretty much just beat down Deluxe down pretty hard there, but she ended up losing the matchup due to Deluxe pulling out submission victory over her. Now that's really all I got going on, guys. I hope you liked the show. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You know, love you very much. I'll check you in the next video.